In Peru, Indian indigenous movements will carry out a second takeover of Lima to demand resignation of President Dina Boluarte. The 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council is underway in Geneva, Switzerland. The Russian Defense Ministry warned that the United States is preparing a provocation in Ukraine using toxic substances. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, Indian indigenous movements carry out on Tuesday a second takeover of Lima to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. Indigenous Aymara and Quechua people from the combative South Andean region of Puno arrived to the Peruvian capital to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. Delegations from the 13 provinces of the South Andean region of Puno achieved the highest participation in the popular demonstrations that started in December. The Boluarte's administration recognized that the announced marches are a constitutional right, but they pointed out that violent acts are being carried out with the objective of destabilizing the government's action. Despite the government arguments, a survey indicated that 58% of those consulted identified themselves with the protests and 55% believe that the mobilizations will achieve the electoral advance. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced on Tuesday that Elon Musk electric car maker Tesla will open a factory in Mexico, making a significant investment in the Latin American nation. The initiative, which has yet to be confirmed by Tesla, would be a major boost to Mexico's hopes of benefiting from United States companies using nearby countries for their manufacturing operations. In his daily press conference, the Mexican head of state added that the factory will be established in Monterrey, bringing considerable investment and jobs. López Obrador expressed his satisfaction after speaking with Tesla's chief executive officer, saying that the magnate was very receptive and understanding of Mexico's concerns, with measures expected to include the use of recycled water in the factory's operations.
We spoke yesterday with Mr. Elon Musk, the head of Tesla. There is already an understanding that they are going to invest in Mexico and establish a plant in Monterrey.
On Monday in Colombia, a new massacre was registered in the department of Boyacá, counting as the number 21 so far in the year 2023. According to the Institute for Development and Peace Studies, the sinister occurred in the village of Las Ninas, sector La Laguna, located in the municipality of Gashantiva, where at least 3 people were killed inside a house by armed men. One of the attackers was captured while the other one escaped. It was revealed that among the victims were a woman and her child. We continue in Colombia, specifically in the department of Arauca, where the murder of a new social leader was registered. According to In the Past, the victim, identified as Abelardo Duarte Moncada, was kidnapped last February 11th at his residence, located in the municipality of Tame. His body was found on Monday in the town of Botalón, in that municipality, with several gunshot wounds. According to data from In the Past, so far this year, 18 social leaders and human rights defenders have been assassinated throughout the country. The U.S. politician John Kerry discussed with Brazilian authorities on the bilateral relationships in strategic areas such as climate change and deforestation. Kerry, who is the special advisor for climate to President Joe Biden's administration, was received on Monday by Vice President Geraldo Alckmin at the Itamaraty Palace in Brasilia. A statement from the Foreign Ministry indicates that the meeting was also attended by the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Marina Silva, among other Brazilian officials. The meeting discussed relevant issues for the Brazil-United States relationship in strategic areas such as climate change, deforestation, adaptation actions, and cooperation for sustainable development. Kerry reaffirmed his government's interest in contributing to Brazilian initiatives in the protection and recovery of forests by means of incentives for the bioeconomy in order to support indigenous peoples. Brazilian health authorities report that some 13 million citizens are afflicted with rare diseases for which there is no specific treatment in 95% of the cases. While commemorating Rare Diseases World Day, the Brazilian Ministry of Health said 65 people per 100,000 inhabitants in the country are suffering from some rare disease. Senator Mara Gabrilli said these diseases reveal exclusion, for millions of Brazilians afflicted with such rare diseases do not have access to adequate diagnosis nor treatment. The senator said that it is important that the country devises comprehensive healthcare policies for people with such rare conditions, and she welcomed initiatives such as providing those people with free medicine. The list of rare diseases includes 7,000 to 8,000 conditions, out of which the most commonly known are multiple sclerosis, hemophilia, optic neuromyelitis, autism, acromegaly, Cushing disease, autoimmune thyroiditis, Addison's disease, hypopituitarism, Fanconi's anemia, vascular dementia, Hodgkin's disease, encephalitis, cystic fibrosis, and hyperhidrosis. In Argentina, the Chamber of Deputies is in session to approve a pension moratorium. The initiative would benefit 800,000 citizens who at the age of retirement or close to it may not have made the required contributions to be granted a pension. On Tuesday, the lower house is holding its last sessions of its extraordinary period to discuss a bill that aims at the mandatory digitalization of medical records, as well as the law on pension moratorium. This legislation establishes that Argentinians with retirement age and without the required contributions will be able to make payments to receive a pension. The session has a quorum of 129 deputies, in spite of blocking efforts by the opposition seeking to block the debate in Parliament until the request for an impeachment trial of members of the country's Supreme Court is dismissed. Argentina took its place at the top of world football after sweeping the 7th edition of the Best Awards, held in Paris, the capital of France. The International Federation of Association Football named Argentina's Lionel Messi as the best player in men's football, Damian Emiliano Martinez as the most outstanding goalkeeper, Lionel Scaloni as the best coach, and the Albiceleste fans as the best fans at the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. At the opening ceremony, FIFA President Gianni Infantino also commemorated the world's greatest football players, such as former Serbian player and coach Sinisa Mihajlovic and Brazilian forward Pelé, to whom they paid a heartfelt tribute. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The 52nd regular session of the United States Human Rights Council is underway in Geneva, Switzerland. The session began on February 27th with a high-level segment of the Council, which will continue until March 2nd, with over 125 states sending ministers and other high-level officials to Geneva to discuss different human rights issues across the world. The Human Rights Council is the premier body within the United Nations responsible for addressing rights violations worldwide, and it was created in 2006 to replace the Commission on Human Rights. In the framework of the 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, denounced that powerful countries use human rights as a mechanism for political domination.
Is a common ideal. No country is free from challenges, and there is no country which can claim to be a shining example in the field, nor can any country politicize or use human rights to stigmatize other countries or economic and social projects which are not in line with the ambitions of weapons markets and institutions. Imperialistic attempts to convert this, the Human Rights Council, into a court against those countries which refuse to lay down to the policies and aims of powerful countries only undermine the credibility of this body.
The high-level meeting was a platform for the Cuban foreign minister to denounce the United States' double standards policy against Cuba and the world in terms of human rights.
The United States government is applying a political genocide through its blockade on Cuba and using maximum pressure against us, which has subjected the Cuban economy to an extremely high level of pressure. This has had an impact on families' standard of living, pushing prices up, making food and medicine scarce, hampering the generation of electricity, and preventing the country from participating in international financial transactions, hampering construction services, the retail trade, investment, health and education.
Also addressing the 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Switzerland, the Venezuelan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ivan Gil Pinto, highlighted his country's achievements in social programs that continue to benefit the people.
And we handed over 500,000 new houses. So over 4 million free houses have been provided for the benefit of over 20 million people. We hope to achieve 5 million houses by 2025. Also in 2021, we implemented over 40% of social protection programs through the Patria platform. This has benefited people without any discrimination.
The Venezuelan foreign minister also referred to the harmful consequences of double standards which continue to undermine the work of institutions like the United Nations.
We reject double standards which continue to undermine the work of certain sectors in the Council. There are too many mandates instrumentalizing human rights. They have high costs for the office, money which could be devoted to technical assistance and cooperation. There are mandates which criminalize countries of the global south. Venezuela's action in the Human Rights Council will continue to strive for the promotion and protection of human rights in our steadfast commitment to peace.
On Tuesday, the Russian defense minister warned that the United States is preparing a provocation in Ukraine using toxic substances. The commander of the radiological defense troops, Igor Kirillov, claimed that former U.S. Ambassador John Sullivan predicted this incident by falsely accusing Moscow troops of such attack. The senior official also confirmed that the train with chemical products had arrived in Kramatorsk. The cargo was followed by U.S.-made armored vehicles heading for the line of contact, as well as the shipment from the West of 55,000 personal protective equipment, gas masks, and individual chemical bags, among other equipment. Also in Russia, at a meeting with Federal Security Service senior officials, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the West has never hesitated to use extremists to its advantage and that it has always used any resource at hand against Moscow. Putin said that it is necessary to identify and to suppress those who try to divide Russian society using separatism, nationalism, and neo-Nazism. Moreover, Putin urged the Russian Federal Security Service to put a stop to the attempts to foster division within Russian society by targeting mostly youngsters in the internet and social media. On Tuesday, the Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the law stipulating the suspension of Moscow's participation in the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, also known as START Free or New START. The treaty was signed by Russia and the United States in Prague on April 8, 2010 and was extended without preconditions for 5 years in February 2021. Under the agreement, the parties committed to reduce their nuclear forces to 700 carriers, 1,550 nuclear warheads, and 800 launchers. The president stressed that Russia is not leaving the START-Free Treaty, but suspending its participation in it, stressing that Moscow is ready to conduct nuclear weapon tests, but will not be the first to do so. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko affirmed that there is now a unique circumstance to end the conflict in Ukraine. In an interview with Chinese media, the mandatory considered it important to take advantage of the fact that Russia has not yet fully deployed its economy and has not put it on a war footing. He manifested that Moscow from the very beginning was ready for dialogue with Kiev and that the parties even held a series of negotiations. However, he added that the US and its allies pushed Ukraine to the brink of war. In this way, Lukashenko indicated that every war ends with a peace, and this one will not be an exception. The question is, how many more people will die and in the name of what? And we have more news coming up after a final short break, but you can now watch teleSUR English in 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461, and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. Welcome back from the South. On Tuesday, North Korean President Kim Jong-un called for a radical change in agricultural production in order to turn it into a stable and sustainable sector. The statement cited by the state agency KCNA was made at the 7th plenary meeting of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea amid a North Korea food crisis. A report by South Korea's Institute for National Security Strategy says that some North Korean experts predict that food shortages will worsen due to last year's unfavorable harvest conditions. According to Koo Byung-sam, spokesman for South Korea's Unification Ministry, the food situation in North Korea is described as serious. Deaths from starvation have been reported in some regions, as declared in a statement on Monday. On Monday, Algeria and Russia discussed strengthening their military cooperation during a visit to Algiers by Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev. The Russian official, accompanied by a large delegation, discussed with Algerian Army Chief of Staff, said Jean Ngriha, the state of military cooperation between the two armies and ways to strengthen it. Jean Ngriha said that for Algeria, the visit is an expression of the firm and frank willingness of the two countries to further strengthen their strategic and historic partnership. The Russian official also met with Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, who will be visiting Russia in May. Moscow is a major supplier of weapons to Algeria, which is the largest country in Africa. Algiers and Moscow have a long-standing privileged relationship. In 2021, trade between the two countries reached $3 billion despite the COVID-19 pandemic. In Nigeria, the head of the African Union election observer team, Uhuru Kenyatta, gave a preliminary report during a press conference on the country's general elections.
The election took place amidst general insecurity in the northwest, the northeast, the southeast, and south-south geopolitical zones. The mission noted that the security issues presented a challenge to the conduct of the elections, as noted with the attack on INEC offices, personnel, and materials before the election.
Notwithstanding the shortcomings identified in these elections, Nigerians were largely accorded the right to vote, and we trust that the final stages of collation and announcement of results will continue to be handled in a transparent, a peaceful and credible manner.
In South Africa, a number of companies in several key sectors are preparing for a possible total collapse of the power grid, where a state of national disaster was declared on February 9 to resolve the country's severe power crisis. According to local media, mobile telecommunications company MTN has deployed more than 2,000 generators to counter further load shedding and has set up command rooms to ensure that critical sites remain operational and that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has enough diesel to operate for 7 days. Although the South African Reserve Bank said a widespread failure of the national grid is unlikely, it admitted that it is working with the financial sector and other industries to prepare for such a hypothetical scenario. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.